listen, Spurs lost yesterday and they've got a right to be frustrated. But you got beat by Nottingham Forest at home.
Mm-hmm.
And if I do say so myself as a Man United fan, God, you looked poor, flat, a lack of ideas. It was like Anthony was wearing a Mo Salah suit in terms of it was awful. What went wrong on Sunday and how do you improve on that this week in the Champions League? Tomorrow in the Champions League.
Mm-hmm. Everything that could have went wrong went wrong. We had 3 players who put in decent levels of performance, which was Gravenberch, McAllister and Van Dijk. The rest were varying levels of crap. The entire right-hand side decided to put in their worst performances in over 12 months. Trent had no composure, was playing the game at 100 miles an hour. Salah couldn't beat the man, and then the one time he did beat him, passed it to the opposition. Szoboszlai does really good at picking up the ball deep, running 40 yards and then giving it away, so he has to run 40 yards back. He's really good at topping the same distance covered metric. Everything that the overall just sort of performance level was poor. We didn't create anything. I wouldn't even say we were that bad defensively, but you could see what was coming. The moment they brought on Elanga and Hudson-Odoi, you just knew exactly what the game plan was, and we didn't do anything to stop it. And whilst that shot from Hudson-Odoi wouldn't normally go in, it was a really good strike. That's not an excuse for the level of poor performance. If that doesn't go in, I'm just leaving the game going, okay, now we got lucky we got a draw there, didn't we? Because we were crap. And the substitutions, Slot's been pretty much faultless first 3 games. Don't ask me what them substitutions were. He should have went to a 4-4-2. Instead, he takes off Diaz and Jota, keeping the worst attacker on the day on the pitch. That doesn't work, surprisingly, because you're just doing the same thing, but with worse players on the pitch. So then you decide to take off a centre-back for a centre-mid and go to a back 3 with your wing-backs at centre-back. And that basically just meant you lost all sort of width and had to go through the middle where they had it fully packed out. It made no sense. Individual errors were made. Team didn't. It was like in the second half, we just lost confidence and it went horribly wrong. I think it was a much needed wake up call. I think a lot of people had gotten too far on the train, and that's going to happen in fandom. You got to level yourself back down. We got Milan tomorrow. Good side, but they're a side that should play a style of football that is slightly more conducive to success for us, where they're not going to be set up in a tight mid block with 5 midfielders. Fair play to Forest, by the way. It's not a knock on them. Their numbers are really good this season, and they deserve the win in that game. They decided to deserve the win. But we've got Milan tomorrow. We play most of the same team. I don't agree with the idea that we should just rotate 7-8 players. This is the Champions League. Milan are a good side. You've got to treat this competition with respect. You want to rotate? You got Carabao Cup next week. Do it in that.
Tom, would you drop or rotate Jota?
No, because I don't want to play Nunes.
What about Gakpo?
I'm playing Gakpo instead of Szoboszlai. I'm going to a 4-4-2 in that sense. So Szoboszlai shouldn't play, and Szoboszlai is very lucky that Harvey Elliott's injured. If Harvey Elliott wasn't injured, I don't think Szoboszlai would be the first choice in that position for the next couple of games.
Tom, do you worry that with Klopp going, you lose a bit of that Anfield fortressness? Like, do you think that cuts? That's
been going for years. I could go on and on about the state of our atmosphere. It's been crap since COVID. Since we came back from COVID, it's just been slowly decreasing, and there's factors behind that. People will say,
"What are those factors?" Because it was particularly quiet on Saturday.
It's a mixture of old people who've had the tickets for years that don't want to give them up, but then don't embrace the atmosphere, and people who come from wherever in the globe, whether it's from down south or whatever, who come to the game and don't embrace the atmosphere. I don't care.
Do you mean tourists?
Yes, but in the sense of
Tom hates tourists and he hates old people. What are we doing here?
Anyone cancelled? Cancel him.
It is a case of I have no problem with wherever you're from if you're coming to Anfield, as long as you embrace it. People go to the game and just expect it to all happen in front of them. You're going to the game to support. You're not paying for a guarantee. You're not paying for anything. You're there to support the players. Now at Anfield, I haven't been for. I used to go pretty regularly before COVID. Now the last game I went to was 2 seasons ago, and I went to that game, was sat in the Kenny Dalglish stand, started singing, and got glared at like I'd murdered someone's child. for trying to sing and not just watch the football.
I would argue that Tottenham have got more tourists than Liverpool because of the amount of fans who come to watch Son, and we've got a relatively good atmosphere. We've got plenty of old people.
Because you've got people who want to sing. It's almost like our
fans
are entitled. Our fans are entitled because they've seen success in recent years, and they just think it's all going to happen in front of them. And they can just watch it unfold, and they can watch the famous atmosphere, and it'll all happen around them. No, if you're going to the game, you need to get involved in it. You need to sing. You're just as important as that bit. Exactly. People will come to Anfield because of the famous atmosphere, because of the famous nights. I expect it to happen around them. No, it happens because the people who went the game that night, that day, were singing and celebrating and getting behind the players. That's going away. There's multiple factors. It's not one or the other. And both sides, I know it's a little bit off topic, both sides in this section of atmosphere debates are playing each other off. The tourists are blaming the old people blame the tourists. It's both of you. You are both at fault. And putting more hospitality in doesn't help. There was a promise made years ago that there's going to be a section in the stadium dedicated to a younger fan base. That's not happened. Fucking hell, I can't wait to see that happen because that's not happened yet, and it's been like 3 years. When's that happening?
Yeah, I do think at all football grounds, when you turn up and you get a Michelin star level 3-course meal with a Sunday roast and you eat it before a game, no one then has the energy to make noise at a game.
Lad,
you are
the new stand's got candy floss in it. The new stand, you can buy candy floss before the game.
Oh my God.
What are we doing?
That is the least scouse thing. You can buy
in the new stand.
Is it pink or red? Is it red or pink?
I don't know. I turned off the video because what I saw 10 seconds of it. There was a wall where there was a bunch of PS5s that you can play before the game. A stand to buy candy floss. What happens to having a pint, having a pie, and getting up in your seat?
Do you know one of the best things you can do at my brother's club, Leighton Orient? You pay for these special tickets, and they put you in what looks like an old-fashioned dugout with a corner flag. And then at halftime, a Domino's pizza person drives across the pitch on a moped and brings you a pizza.
Yes,
I love it. It is fun. That's kind of funny though. There's another one in England where they've got hot tubs on the corners, and you sit in the hot tub watching the games. But I do think though. But if you suddenly have 60,000 seaters, but like 10,000 people are getting like hospitality, that is going to hurt your atmosphere. It is. Nobbins, let me ask you a question about Liverpool. Do you think people are overreacting to Slot's first loss? Do you think there's a bit of an overreaction? Oh, is the honeymoon over? Are we now going to see a downturn? Or is it just one bad day in the office for you?
Yeah, people overreact because it's fun to overreact because that's how humans work and that's how football fans work. You know, I think there have been some really good things about Slot's starts to Liverpool. I've been very impressed. It's already apparent that he's a very good manager. There shouldn't be a case of throwing the baby out of the bathwater. I think Tom's covered a lot of the issues I experienced. It's just about tweaks. And you experience that and you learn, you develop and you grow as a manager as you go throughout a season. Let's not forget, this is Slot's first season in the Premier League. It was incredibly, I know we're only 4 games in, so I'm talking about the title challenge is already over, but it was always going to be incredibly difficult for Slot to challenge for the title because unless you're a Chelsea manager, it's nearly unheard of to win the Premier League in your first season at that club, in your first season in the English top flight. Apart from Pellegrini, I think it's only Chelsea managers that have done it. So the history was always against Slot in that respect. The decision-making does have to go up a level in respect to the subs, like Tom's already touched on. The issues with, Szoboszlai. I don't know what the situation is with Curtis Jones. I was a bit surprised that maybe he didn't see action a little bit earlier, or maybe he didn't start.
He's getting back from an injury. So
okay, that's reasonable, yeah. But decisions like it's a very Southgate decision to put Trent in midfield, for example, and that's surprising. That's surprising when I think it was only last week or maybe the week before, like Slot came out and correctly said Trent needs to play out wide because that's where his best attributes are in respect of crossing. So he's clearly profiled him correctly, but then he opts to pop him in midfield when they need a goal. But Trent isn't a midfielder; he can't do that, nor should he be expected to do that. So yeah, people are overreacting, but it's fun to overreact. Liverpool will be fine this year, in my opinion. They'll finish third, a comfortable third, way ahead of fourth, but just missing out on properly challenging Arsenal and City, and that's fine. I think if we're being realistic and pragmatic, no one truly expects Liverpool to truly challenge with that last game of the season. I don't think it's reasonable to expect that either.
No, our best chance in the cups this year. We are built like a good cup team. We have been under Klopp for many years. You've got pace and attack. You've got a couple of solid defenders, and you've got, for the most part, a serviceable midfield. So you're a team that can win knockout games. We lack the depth probably to win the title. You could win the title this year, but you'd need a massive fall off from City and a massive fall off from Arsenal, and then you to be really good up throughout the rest of it. And that's not going to happen. So you're not going to win the title this year. For us, our aim's got to be, like I said, going into the season, you've got to maintain where you finish in the league. You don't want to go backwards league-wise. And I want to see us give a really good account of ourselves in the Champions League. And if that's where you win the trophy, that's where you win it. If not, you should be adding trophies. Liverpool have to win trophies. And the game on Saturday doesn't, change my view on that. I'm not like stressing out about that. It was a bad day at the office. If it continues to happen, if I see it happening again, we got Bournemouth at home next week on Saturday. If it happens against Bournemouth, then the concerns start to rise again. A one-off thing isn't a problem, especially for a new manager in his first season at the club. If it starts becoming a regular thing, and there's games where we're seeing the same thing happen again, where we can't break down these low blocks, the style of football is too slow. I'd like to think this would be a big learning curve for Slot, who has shown that he's willing to adapt so far. I'd like to think that now he's seen it firsthand, he's more willing to make the correct changes and not go to a 3 at the back with Tsimikas at centre-back, whatever that was.
Szoboszlai, another poor game for him in a Liverpool shirt. I want to throw this out to the panel if anyone wants to jump on this. I just started off the first 3 or 4 games under Klopp last season looking very good. Since then, he is really flattered to deceive. What's your thoughts on him, Jords?
I think Szoboszlai has fell off a cliff. Like you said, I think the first couple of games I saw him, I thought he was actually really bright, really good. But to be honest, similar to Maddison, man, I feel like he's a lot of people put an expectation on him and his role and what he was going to be as part of the Liverpool team to be a lot higher than what he actually is and the level of player he is. I think he isn't as good in the final third as many thought he was, because they saw a few long shots and they saw him hit a few goals for Leipzig from far. They thought he was going to be a bagsman and, score quite a few goals for Liverpool, but that's not the type of player he is. I was actually going to ask Tom a similar question with regards to Liverpool, because when I've seen Liverpool and I look at your games, I think you guys probably have had about 2, maybe 3 good halves of football. Apart from that, you've been dominated by a few teams and you've actually looked really poor. And I was going to say, you're not worried about that, because although, albeit in the halves that you've been good, you've been really good and you've dispatched of teams. But in those other halves of games where the teams have been better than you, they've had chances and they probably could have put you guys away. Is that not a growing concern? Because obviously, like, you haven't been consistent across these games. It's not like you're performing for 90 minutes. You're really just having good spells in games and taking advantage of it.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think Liverpool.
I would say first half Ipswich we weren't great, and then it was probably second half Forest where we weren't great. I'd say all the Brentford game we weren't under pressure. All the United game, bar the last 20 minutes when we were 3-0 up and captain decided to just take the foot off the pedal, we were fine. And the first 10, if you want to really nitpick.
United game, yeah, that wasn't even a worry.
And then Nottingham Forest, first half, we were actually all right against Forest. We were doing all the correct things. It was just we weren't. There wasn't enough pace in it. And then in the second half, rather than picking up the pace, we kind of just panicked a little bit, which was weird. I wouldn't say it's been like a concern in the sense of there's been a lot of moments like that. I'd say it's been 2 real halves of football. But the point that I do get is there is still a not reliance, but still a natural curve back to the way it was under Klopp, where it's transitions and hitting them and waiting for teams to expose themselves and then hitting them on the counter attack. We've not necessarily had games where it's been from minute 1 to 90 the slot style of football, which is really possession oriented, having people involved, and I'm fine with that. I quite like having it in that mixture, but it felt like Forest, because we weren't getting any luck on the transitions, we weren't really having much joy in terms of getting anything going because we couldn't fall back onto what was working in the past. So there is a point. I don't think we've been as bad in terms of there's been games where we've not been great. I'd say, like I said, first half Ipswich, second half Forest. For the rest, I've been pretty happy with it.
On Szoboszlai, very quickly, comment that's just been released in a press conference via Arnie Slot is on Dominic Szoboszlai. He says, as an attacking midfield player playing for Liverpool, your numbers must be a lot better. And again, I would agree. I think when you're playing for a team as big and as historic as Liverpool, you've got to be, and you're an attacking midfielder, you've got to start creating or scoring goals. I mean, it's what you're judged on ultimately.
He's more an 8 than a 10.
I'm just quoting what the manager's saying.
I can see that appeal. He's got the engine for an 8. Defensively, there's a little bit of a question mark around him because he has played mainly as a 10, but he's got the engine for an 8, and maybe that kind of negates the issue that I think he has, which is he's doing too much. He's so busy. Like, if you watch a 2-minute section of Liverpool where both goalkeepers have the ball, when Alisson has the ball, Szoboszlai's practically in between the centre-backs. And then when their keeper has the ball, Szoboszlai's the man closing the keeper down. He's running here, there, and everywhere. So by the time that he gets on the ball, he's goosed, especially after the moments where he picks up the ball and does this 40-yard mad dash through the line. He's goosed. He plays a tired pass. A lot of his passes seem overhit and tired and desperate. I feel like if he's an 8, maybe that gets negated because he's got more of a set position. The only problem we have there is then you put McAllister in the 10 and asking McAllister to do an awful lot of pressing work, which I don't necessarily want him to do. I think Szoboszlai, technically and output-wise, needs to be better, but we kind of can't lose him at the minute from that position because he does so much work in terms of running, and we haven't been able to lose that need of a runner. We still need his energy and his pressing in order to for the shape and the structure. So until that gets negated, Szoboszlai kind of has to play a lot of the games because he's the only guy who can match that. If McAllister was trying to lead the press, we'd get passed through quite easily, and your pivot might be a little bit weaker defensively. So Szoboszlai definitely needs to improve, especially in terms of output. You can see he's got it because for the first 2-3 games of the season, he was actually quite good. It's just a consistency thing. We need to start getting the consistency, and when you're costing as much money as you cost, we need to try and find it quickly, ideally. I'm not stressed out about him yet, but there is a concern there. And like I said, I think he's quite lucky that Harvey Elliott's injured at the minute.